What's good, everyone? It's your boy Baski. I'm back. Yeah, I wanted to shoot in the park again. I kind of like this. I like switching up, being outside in nature and showing that it doesn't matter where I am. I'll shoot content if I have my camera on me. I like to encourage people to get out there and create. There's so many different devices now. You don't have to rely on just a high fancy camera like me. You can use whatever's in your disposal. I don't have a tripod for my iPhone. If I did, I probably would use it just so I could prove to people that ultimately doesn't matter. I would just carry a light source with me so that way you have options. But aside from that, I want to continue talking about growing up, adopted in Harlem. Growing up was really difficult. I had to deal with a lot of like finding out who I was or who I am as a person early on. It's like you're questioning your existence because you don't know your background. You don't know who birthed you, what ethnicity you are, aside from being your nationality, which is American. And then identifying with African American people because you grew up in Harlem and being raised by Puerto Ricans, so your culture in which you do things is from that standpoint. Whereas like you come home and you eating arroz con gandules or pasteles or pernil, and you meet up with your friends and they're eating collard greens, chitlins, cornbread, chicken and waffles, fried chicken, you know, all the amazing staples of food that can be found in the South, you know? And it's cool, man, it's cool. I had a really good upbringing in terms of like being submerged in culture. Again, I think I stated this before, I was raised by many amazing people of all different ethnicities and ethnicities. But shout out to all the, again, African American women who poured into me. Learned a lot about just life in general and the perseverance of them in a world that tends to like neglect them in different spaces and spheres. And I'm aware of that, I see it. That's why I'm really patient with people to begin with in general. When it comes to like business or hearing other people's opinions in terms of like in a community setting, generally when I'm by myself or I'm working for myself and stuff, I take my opinion first and foremost because I work for myself, so I don't have to necessarily like lean into like other people who I feel like not really contributing to where I see myself going or the things that I want or how can they, you know, contribute to this project if I know they don't really have a background in what I do. But that's like with all people, right? That's not really like a gender thing or classism. That's just how I operate. But yeah, I'm gonna continue this series. Growing up in East Harlem was interesting. There is someone whistling wild, OD crazy, and this was happening yesterday. I don't know if you could hear it, but aside from that, I remember just being in flux. Growing up was tough. My parents were verbally and physically abusive sometimes to the point where it was like, why do we have to tolerate this and take this? But in comparison to like other situations, other people I know who were also like growing up and in the foster system, I fortunately was not in the foster system. I was adopted at birth, so it's a little bit different. And I say we, speaking about like the other children that grew up with me in my household, we had to assimilate and just bear the brunt of certain things. I'm not gonna get too graphic, you know, because I don't know if they would want me to share some of the things that we experienced, so I'll leave that up to them. If they're more than happy to like talk about those specific things. But right now, I don't know, maybe later on I'll like delve into it. But right now I'm just gonna keep it PG and whatnot. But yeah, aside from that, just the environment that we have to like navigate, right? Visiting friends and just knowing which route to take because of the different things that were happening. Like when I lived at on 126 in Lexington, we had to be mindful of the crackheads, and they would like, you know, shoot up, do their drugs underneath the Metro North, right there on 125th Street. There used to be a hotel in the corner of 125th on the southeast side, and everybody knew in the hood that was like the prostitution building. So you had to navigate your way, through that so you wouldn't get caught up in any of those stuff. Also, in the building I grew up with, in random stairwells, there were drug transactions that were happening. And I've seen a couple of things. I've seen a drug bust go bad. I see seen someone have a gun placed to them, getting robbed for narcotics. You just see a lot, and these are like things that over time, once you think about it or once you process it, you just normalize as, all right, this is just every day, it's whatever, you know? But they add up, and they add up, and they feel normal. In New York, I feel like a lot of things that in other places wouldn't necessarily be tolerated is, and it's like, what you gonna do about it? Because you got the street code, you know what I'm saying, not snitching, things of that nature, juxtaposed, something bad could happen to you or your family if you, were to like open your mouth. And I don't know, just figuring out how to navigate that definitely made me smarter. Also definitely made me feel like, all right, if I'm gonna speak up and say certain things, it's gonna be in situations that I can control and I'm comfortable speaking up in, and I ultimately know it's for the benefit of me, right? So yeah, and I'm just glad and happy that I was able to develop street smarts. I've come to realize and find that a lot of people don't have that. I see it now. There's many people that walk these streets and they just cross the street almost getting hit, not paying attention, too self-absorbed into what they got going on or what's going on around them, and not really paying attention to what's like actually in front of you. And that's spilling over into society in a grotesque way, in a most selfish way, I believe. If you go around, I see people are not taking into consideration other people when they make certain choices. When it comes to like living, experiencing, having patience with people. Like if you're in a relationship and you're building towards someone, I see a lot of people have expressed to me that other partner is willing to like just leave you and go find their own truth and path. Hey, listen, it is what it is. But I just noticed like patience is not a virtue anymore. It's more of an afterthought. Maybe that's a side effect of everybody seeing the life that they want on social media or believing these pictures and video, which is kind of funny because I create a content for a lot of people who don't got it. They're not rich, you know. They may some of them are well off though. They have a lot of money, but they're regular people and they have problems and they have budgets and they have their lives are not necessarily a tremendous 10x plus upgrade over yours or mine. But I find that to be interesting. But yeah, man, just growing up, having to deal with these like terrors, as I like to call them, has also hindered my growth in certain areas. Because when you grow up in these environments, if you don't have an outlet sometimes to seek truth, to seek other better things, you can be hamstrung by fear, you can be hamstrung by self-doubt. And I'm human, I've dealt with that a lot, right? It's only recently, I will say in the past maybe 6-7 years, I started realizing that I have to be more of an extrovert. For the longest I was an introvert. I really thought I was gonna have a life where I was gonna, work on computers, build them, sell them. I only have to interact with them and then that's it. I could build a lovely life. But because of my upbringing and because of the world around me, I have met wonderful people in my life that I was like, nah, I can't just solely have all of that, right? And I realized that a little too late in terms of being able to control certain spaces or be ingratiate myself into other people's presence and generally listen to them, right? There were a lot of times where I was really self-absorbed in what I want or what I want to get out certain situations, and for the most part, In some situations, I ain't happy I did that. I'm not gonna lie. Like, nah, right? And then in a lot of situations, it's like, damn, I should have handled that differently, or I should have cultivated this relationship or situation. I should have been more mindful. But I will say this. In some situations, I feel like yes and no. I just, if I could be completely transparent, honest, I don't know if I like the world I live in terms of all this materialism, like pushing. And, I got to blame myself too, because I create content for people who push these ideas and these things. So I'm contributing to that world, right? But it has me questioning sometimes, like, if it's worth it. And in my personal life, I've never really been anyone like that. Now, don't get it twisted. When I was growing up, my parents, you know, got us Jordans, and I always looked nice. But I mean, I also grew up with, like, my mom shopped at Conway, you know? Like, we had nice clothes, but they were worth probably like, my set I would wear probably only cost probably like $10, $15, if that, like, But she did provide value for us. She always made sure we had chains and jewelry. Like, I had a Lazarus chains a couple of times. Always had like bracelets. My sister, same. My brother, the same. So that always felt good, right? But about when I went to middle school, that's when things, I think money was tight. So we didn't really have too much clothing back then. But, we made do, and life was much simpler. At a certain point, I wasn't the kid going to school, and I had the latest kicks and stuff. In fact, I remember I had like Payless sneakers and shoes, right? And I was comfortable. I didn't care. Yeah, I got made fun of. I mean, at the end of the day, it's Harlem. Like, people are gonna joke on you. But it wasn't to the detriment of my mind and body and soul. It was just like, I just seen it as it is what it is. Also, I had the honor and privilege to go to Catholic school from time to time. So the switch up was real. Like, and my dad worked at a dry cleaners. So I always had like my cleans pressed every week, always had my clothes dry cleaned for school. So that was like a plus, so there were benefits and whatnot. That relationship with my dad was weird. I don't really have a relationship with him. He did everything monetarily. So he made sure we had like a roof over our heads and, there was food on the table and whatnot. But we didn't really have a relationship. They didn't really spend time. If I didn't spend time with him or my brother or my sister, which that was rare, no, like, he didn't make the effort. He didn't even come to our graduations, right? That's the type of relationship we had. So it's kind of like, again, salty and bitter. So like, it was a real disconnect growing up. And as someone that's adopted, you always question, like, would this be different if I was your blood child? Would our interactions be different? But I come to the conclusion, like, no, it doesn't really matter, because I've known people who grew up with their, like, biological parents, and they don't have those type of relationships. Some of them don't even talk to their dads, or, some of them don't even have a great relationship with their mothers. So that has taught me a lot. It has taught me that, like, your relationships in this world are very important, but you do control how hard you go for someone, and you have to play a part in cultivating those type of relationships. And you have to realize that people are going to give and take in certain degrees, right? The person that you reach out to, that you're giving a lot and you're investing a lot of your time, energy, and like experience with, may at a certain point may not provide you with the same thing. And you have to be comfortable with that, right? Or at least make a decision on what you want to do after that. So that started for us young. Like, I'm gonna keep it 1,000. That shit was hard. That's why I always had like problems making friends, because it was like I was taught to be distant. I didn't want to invest my time into making friends that, I don't know, probably wouldn't become anything like substantial from that until like I met my best friend Irv in the 11th grade. Then that's when things started to change. So yo, shout out to Irv, Dave, Ola, then later on Carlos, shout out to my boy Steve. Actually, shout out to everyone from Tag. Some of those people have become very inspirational people. Judith became a lawyer, right? Just the other day, I think Taina, she got her PhD from Columbia University, right? So, and Clarence is an amazing dad to his children, well, his daughter. So yeah, like, and these are people I grew up with, right? The, you know, which is amazing to like reflect upon as we continue to get older and like comprehend and think as we see like the life passing us by. But yeah, man, just dealing with all those things. So like going to school, having to deal with having to deal with fitting in, yo, is crazy. And then coming back home and trying to fit in, it was like, yo, when do I have time not to like just to relax and not feel like I have to just fit in and just be myself. But that's kind of hard when you don't know your origins, right, growing up. And then you built up a wall, you built up a space where it's like, all right, fuck it, it is what it is. I'm gonna just find love and I'm gonna find acceptance in this and be happy with that, period, right? So that's something interesting. Even to this day, I feel quasi about that because I'm around people who are sharing their cultures. I have friends for different ethnicity groups, man. I have Haitian friends, Honduran friends, Dominican friends. I have Asian friends, people who are Korean, people who are from China, right? I have friends who are Indian. I have friends of all different groups of people to walk this planet Earth. And when you see their cultural backgrounds and when you see them with their group or their clan, it's amazing. And then sometimes it felt like, yeah, I don't really have that and stuff like that. Because my family is not close, you know? We're sporadic and stuff. But there's people that have worse family than, or experience than I have. And I'm mindful of that because when you think about all the negativity, or at least for me, I'm gonna speak for myself, but I think about a lot of the negativity and a lot of things that I had to deal with growing up. I am also reminded that there's other people that grow up with worse situations. And I'm not saying this to be comforting, but I'm saying it to be practical. Like, yo, I don't really have it that bad. Also, because I have a mindset that like, when I meet people, I cherish the moments that I spend with them in the present and in the now. And I'm able to create content with people who see the value in what I do and I see the value in what they do. Because if I didn't see the value in what they do, I wouldn't be filming or working with them to create content that matters to them. It's all subjective. At the end of the day, that's it, subjective art. So seeing the smile on their faces is what brings me joy. People ask me is like if videography or creating content for people is my passion. No, it's not my passion. I'm good with technology. I've always been good with technology since I was a kid. I generally love the fact that I can control my time working with people and creating something that makes people happy. That's what I like. That's probably more of my purpose than actually like being someone of an occupation. Can we stop that? Oftentimes in society, people want to push you to be this thing, this occupational thing. No, people are multifaceted. When I was growing up learning about people, people did 7 or 8 different things. Nobody was just one thing. I'm not a videographer, I'm not a photographer. First and foremost, I own my own business. How about that? Boom, I'm a business person. I'm an entrepreneur. But I'm all these things, right? But more importantly, I'm Baski, I'm Christian, I'm Chi. These are all the different names I have that people know me by, and that's cool too. Because I have different nicknames I've gathered over the year from other people that people call me different things. So that means I'm different things to different people, but I'm one and the same person. And that's kind of cool about life that you can have those different monikers. But yeah, my passion comes from just being able to like do something and feel good about it. That's it. I'm more of an essence type of person and not necessarily defined by these different things.